Hey people, I'm Sam Collins from Couple Technology. In this video, we're going to be switching API packages. In a previous video, I used the out-of-the-box API package that comes with the SharePoint framework, and I want to show you how to make the same call using PnPjs. If you're on Twitter, follow me at SamC148 and feel free to ask questions here or on Twitter. The goal of this video is to make our code easier to read and write. We want to get the same information back in the same format so we don't create a bunch of rework for ourselves. To do this, we're going to install @PnP/SP, and once that's installed, we need to update the service call, the main webpart.ts, and the main React component. And don't worry, while the call itself is getting a total makeover, our webpart base and our React component will only need touch-ups. For the prep work, there are two options if you want to follow along. You can download the code I'll be using from the link below, or use your own project. The example I'll be using is from my frequently asked question build video. If you haven't seen it, check it out, especially if you're newer to the wonderful world of SPFX. If you're more experienced or just feeling a little feisty, feel free to follow along with your own code if you have an SPHttp call that you'd like to clean up. The last thing before we get started is the dependencies. If you don't fully understand this screen, don't worry. The big red arrow is pointing to the only item that we need to add to our project to use PnPjs. Let's jump into the code. All right, let's start with going over the code we have right now. So we're going to hop into the source folder and then web parts. The first one we want to get into is our _helpers folder if you're following along in my code. If you're using your own code, you're going to want to go to your service call, wherever that might be. And in here, you can see this is our function where we're making our call. We're using this.client. Client is the SPHttp client. And then we're doing the get for this absolute URL. Again, something that's in our constructor. And then we're going to use this endpoint, which is saying that we want to get a list by the title of FAQ. We want to get some items from that list. And finally, we're saying which items we want from that list. And we're telling it we want to select the ID, title, answer, category, and featured. These are the columns in our list. We are calling this function from two different places in our code. First one I want to show you is down in the main webpart.ts. We are setting up in our on a init our list service. So we're creating that new list service and we're setting the context with the absolute URL and the SPHttp client. And then we're calling a function, this _getListItems. And in this function, we are calling our list service and then doing some configuration when we get it back. The other place that we are making this call is from our main React component, which is going to be the react.cardFAQ.tsx. It's going to be in your components folder. It should be the bottom file in there. In here, we're doing pretty much the same thing, except for we're doing it in component did mount. So again, we're setting up for our list service, and then we're calling a function, and within that function that we're calling, we are calling our list service and then doing configuration when it comes back. So let me show you what this code looks like, because if you haven't seen the other video, this will all be very confusing. We're going to serve this, and I've already navigated to the site that is holding my list with all of my items, and then I have added the /_layouts /15/workbench.aspx, which is going to let us access SharePoint from our local instance. I'm going to hit OK and then just refresh the page because now that I've served it again, and then you can see the web part. I don't want to get too much into the web part because this isn't what this video is about, but I do want to show you this is what it is, and then I want to show you the list where it's pulling from. We have our question, answer, category, and featured. It might sound kind of familiar because these are the items that we're getting. The question is actually the title. We've just renamed it into question, and this is the additional data that we're getting. So let's jump back into the code and start making our updates. To clean this up a little bit, really this doesn't make too much sense, and even though we've broken it out into these helpful little snippets, it's still kind of hard to read and very hard to write. At least very time consuming unless you're just copying and pasting. The first thing we want to do is we're going to stop our serve, and then we're going to install @PnP/SP. We're going to do that with npm space I space @PnP//SP and hit enter. I'm going to go ahead and pause this because it's going to take just a moment. Now that we have our new API package installed, we need to start using it. So we're in our list service, and we're going to come right under here under our imports, and just like always, the first thing we want to do is add some more imports. We're adding webpart context from @Microsoft/SP-webpart-base, and then we're also adding SP, which you can see is from this @PnP/SP/presets/all. The next thing we want to do is we're going to change our constructor and our call completely. And because I kind of want to show you this side by side, we're just going to comment it out, and I'm going to add it on top. Now, because our constructor down here in our webpart.ts is set up for this configuration, when we add this in, we could get some red squigglies. Let's go ahead and add our new constructor and our new function. In our constructor, we only have one item in here. We have private context, which is our webpart context. And then we're doing a setup of the SP context to be this.context. This is a little different, so this is this right here down at the bottom. And then the biggest change is going to be the actual call itself. This is just a lot cleaner and a lot easier to work with. It makes sense from the beginning. We're setting it up. We're saying we want to get it by the title. We can put the title in right here. We're saying we want to get some items. What kind of items we're going to get. That's where we're using this type, this model that we created. And then when we get the items back, we're able to just map them directly into the properties of our model. Let me show you the model real quick. We have our title, answer, category, ID, and featured. These are all of the columns that are coming from our SharePoint list. So we're mapping for each one of the items that we get back from our call. We're mapping the item.category into the category, item.title into title, and so on. Then we're returning it, and we're returning. Super straightforward. Let's save these changes, and we've got two more big changes to make. Well, not huge. So let's go down to our webpart.ts, and we are going to change our on a knit. And the only change here is that we just need to pass less information, because in our initial constructor we were getting two items. We were getting our site absolute URL, which was a string, and we were getting our client, which was SPHttp client type. In our new constructor, we only need one item, which is the context, which is a type webpart based context. So in our constructor, we only need to pass the context. And there we go. We're going to save. And then we're going to do the same change on our React component. So in here, instead of passing all of this, we are just going to pass this props.context. Just like that. All right, we're going to save our changes, and then we are going to serve it again and make sure that everything is still working. We do have one error message. Don't want to act like that doesn't exist. It does exist, but it is one that we can ignore for now. So let's come back in. We're going to do a refresh, make sure that it is working, and it all looks beautiful. Obviously, we're getting items back from the list. If we want to like extra double check it, you always load it in another browser tab, and that will make sure that any cache that might have been in there, anything saved, any of your categories selected, all of that is going to be wiped. And so as you can see, it's asking me to select my categories again, so I can make sure that the call is working correctly as opposed to something that was cached. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, please let me know, and have a great day.